Okay. Welcome everyone to another e-NABLE town hall. Ben, you mind helping out with notes?
Yep, I can do that.
Thank you. Let's see, no introductions, action items. This should be pretty quick because I haven't done the first one. I still need to reroute this chapter's email to our help desk. It's just a little bit more time consuming because of the DNS changes involved, so I haven't gotten to that yet. Just so I know, where is that going right now? Is that an actual inbox? Does anyone know? Chapters, is anyone monitoring the chapter's email address?
Chapters at e-NABLE.org. Boy, I'm not sure.
That used to go to John because somebody wrote to chapters at one point, and then John was writing back and saying to us, did you respond to this? And none of us were seeing it.
Yeah, okay, so I'll have to ask John when he gets here. It might be that it's a direct email that he's monitoring, but I'm going to change that into a group address and then redirect it to our help desk. Haven't gotten to it yet. I just want to know if we're missing any emails while we're waiting on me to do that. So we'll check with John. Okay, Adam is working to coordinate a meeting of this emerging leadership team. I know we've been struggling a little bit to get that going. What's the latest, Adam? Have you heard from anyone?
I haven't. Let me go to the last communication. I don't think I have an update from last week.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't had any, it just looks like Eric Bubar is the only member who's responded to my posts, reaching out for responses for availability or interest in meeting. So I don't know if maybe the hub is not the right place or if it's not where people are used to communicating. Because when the team was initially forming, it looked like there was a group, if I remember correctly, there was a group email sent out, and it seemed like there was pretty immediate responses.
Well, it might be worth trying that again. Maybe we wait until John gets here. He might have some thoughts on this, but that's the next thing that I would try is let's go back to email and let's directly email everyone and let's send them directly that link to your scheduling poll and see if more.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
You know, I suspect that it's going to be a combination of things. So asynchronous can be a lot easier, I think, sometimes. If people are really busy this time of year, everybody's starting in their classes. There's a lot of the folks are educators, but I do wonder if maybe we can start trying to bring people to these town hall meetings. Sometimes after the town hall, there's a community meeting, but there's that hour gap in between. So if for whatever reason,
that's actually a related topic, Ben. I seem to remember at least a couple of these people on this team mentioning that the town hall day and time didn't work well for them. So I didn't want to get into talking about moving the town hall until we had the input from these folks, but that might be part of the problem here is that they're tied up with, classes or whatever jobs they have going on. We certainly try, but I know some of them mentioned that this time isn't good for them.
Right. Well, whatever time we decide, I think if we could have the town hall be hopefully sort of what we're aiming to bring people into, and then have a little bit of a buffer after it, whenever it is, if we can find a time that sort of has a little bit of spillover, that might be an opportunity to get some folks involved in kind of general things, and then we can have these kind of focused discussions while we have everybody together. Because I know that's been really helpful. There's been times that I've jumped into a call with you or with John or with Rick right after one of these calls.
That's a good idea. And I'm flexible. If the decision is that some other day or time works better, I'm happy to change these. We just want to be sensitive to our international community as well. Ideally, I'd like to have it earlier in the day so that people overseas can join if they're interested. But whatever works for everyone, I'm flexible, like I said. All right, so we'll try reaching out by email, and we'll see if John has any other thoughts when he gets here, but I think that's all we can do for now. I know everyone's
okay. I'll get on that after this call.
Okay, thanks, Adam. Thanks for being persistent with it. Takes time sometimes. John and Ben meet with Ian. Has that meeting happened about interns and educators?
I did connect with Ian via email. He wanted some internship materials that I sent over. I haven't had a direct meeting with him, but I know that his, I think Noosh, his intern, the new intern student, did meet with the NIH folks. So he's got something to share. Ian was out of town today. The education meeting was originally scheduled for today, but we've rescheduled it for Monday the 19th, which actually I think works out really pretty well. And he's going to have his intern, is it the 19th? And double checking.
So do we have, is it one intern active right now or two?
I think there were 2 intern spots, and I know that I've heard one is already all set on board, and the other I'm not sure. So it's definitely time to connect with Ian. You know, again, I know he's out today. It sounded like he's got some sort of like beginning of the year orientation stuff going on, but maybe next week, John and I could try to meet with him, and then the week after on Monday, he'll be giving a sort of hosting the education meeting for the month, and his intern will be or our intern, the e-NABLE intern for the fall, will be presenting sort of the current state of the project.
Oh, okay. Because last time we did that in the town hall, we had the interns join us here and introduce themselves and present their projects. I know I'd like to see that. You think the educational meetup is a better place to do that? Because we're talking about the device catalog. It's not really educational specific, is it?
Right. So I'm thinking both would be great. So if we could get maybe next town hall, I could send an email to Ian. I'll write a reminder for myself.
Yeah, that would be, I'd love to meet them and get to hear what they're working on. That'd be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can connect with Ian, maybe we can bring in the interns next Friday, and then that following Monday, they can participate in the education meeting. And I think too, it's just basically a great opportunity for all the schools to share more or less what their plans are for the fall.
Okay,
there's been a couple schools that have posted in the hub that are trying to set up chapters at high schools or colleges, and maybe we can just bring some of those voices together. And I know specifically one post was asking about, how do I set up, I'm a teacher, I'm interested, what do I do?
Sorry, that's my dog on hardwood floors. On that note, I don't know if I will be able to join that educational meetup. It doesn't always work for my schedule. If I'm not able to be there, Ben, one of the things that I would love to explore is, how we have for a long time been producing these kits, with the Phoenix being the most popular one. We're probably going to have to drop the Cyborg Beast kit soon. They have not been popular for a long time, and the cost of those Chicago screws that go into the Cyborg Beast has just doubled recently. And so we are probably going to have to drop those kits. And so I wanted to explore if there's a new kit that we should be exploring for one of our other newer designs. And it would be nice to, especially for the educators, they're one of the groups that really seems to value those kits, to be able to bring them more easily into the classroom. Maybe seeing if they have a specific interest in kits for a particular design that they'd like to explore. That would be really helpful for me to know if there's one that people would, value most.
So that's a great question for that group. I know the Phoenix V3, you have a kit for?
Yeah, we've got the Phoenix covered.
That's what
V3.
Folks were recommending for the educator who was interested in getting involved. Kinetic, you have?
I've thought, well, right now, once we drop the Cyborg Beast, we're going to be down to just the Phoenix kits. I want to, like I said, I want to add something else. I mean, I've thought about doing something for the Kinetic, but the Kinetic doesn't really need a lot of hardware. I mean, so it'd be kind of a slim kit. We could, there's still some components, but I don't know if that would be of as much value maybe as something else. So just looking for input.
Boy, I wonder, this is sort of off the cuff, but a Bionics kit could be pretty interesting. I know there's been a lot of discussions.
Cool. Yes, I would
related to Bionics.
I'm not as familiar with that space. I would love to explore it. Maybe I should try to get into the next Bionic team meeting and get some guidance from them. That's a really good idea, Ben.
That'd be great. And I know Alberto from Italy presented. He's been doing a lot of research on sort of boiling things down to, not the lowest common denominator, but what would be, what is enough strength, in terms of the hardware, the communication bus, or whatever it is, all the pieces that fit together, how slim can you get and still have it be functional? And I think, asking that group, sort of how, which device would be a good learning.
Exactly, yeah. Because
step.
I could see two ways to go with that. One would be to pick a specific design and make a kit that has, like our other kits, that has exactly what you need to make a device. I could also see doing almost kind of like an experimenter's kit for bionics that just has a bunch of different components that you could use to explore, bionics. So yeah, I'm going to have to try to get into the educational and bionics meeting to see what would be of most value. If anyone has ideas, I'm all ears. Okay, so we'll move on. Let's see, John and Ben, so we just covered that one. And then the last one is for me to share we talked last time about I have some of these public facing knowledge base articles through our help desk that I hadn't even really realized. Where is it? I had it here somewhere.
Oh, right. You had shared the last meeting.
Yeah, I can't even find which page I have it on here, but yeah, somewhere I have a knowledge base that has a bunch of e-NABLE related articles, and I got to share those with you, Ben. I haven't gotten to it, but I will. So I'll leave that action item on here for me, and we'll figure out if that's something we can make use of.
Great.
All right, so let's move on. Here's our stats for the week. I don't think there was anything much out of the ordinary here. Reminder that our number of chapters is very much in question right now because we are long overdue for a chapter audit. I don't think there's anything else here really that we need to talk about, so on we go.
Ben, did you see the message I sent you about the chapter audit by chance?
I did. I responded yesterday.
Okay.
I think it was in the evening though. I was going to mention that too when Jeremy brought up the audit. There's some prior questions that I can do some digging and come up with some questions. In the message responding to you, I remember that when Bob had done audits in the past, there was some confusion related to just in how the question was set up in relation to sort of basically how many people are in a chapter. So asking questions about, how many part-time, full-time staff, how many volunteers, how many device recipients, and putting those three together as sort of the total number of chapter members, or deciding on, what is the criteria for membership could be helpful. Because I think the last time, volunteers were sort of separate in how it was tallied. In last year's annual report, I pulled together basically all the members of each chapter, including the device users, as being sort of part of that membership number, because it made a lot of sense to me. And we want to try to encourage sort of the feedback and the relationships, and they have a very valuable role there. The other thing was devices produced versus devices delivered. You can make a whole bunch of devices and you can deliver, a lot less devices, and it could, potentially you could be sending multiple devices to one user. So clarifying the questions that you ask can make the data a lot easier for us for like annual reports.
I was more looking at the audit part because I've been working on an autoresponder that will actually use the email addresses in the chapter spreadsheet. And I think I can actually send a personalized form to each individual person, and the autoresponder will keep track of it. But I wanted to know if you guys wanted to put together some sort of a template of questions.
Well, we've done that before, Rick. So before you go recreating the wheel, we have the benchmark email platform where we can easily mass email everybody on the chapter's email list. This is what we did last time. We can send them all to a Google form. They fill out the Google form and all the responses go into a spreadsheet in a nice organized list. So you'd have all the responses in one place. So that's what we did last time. All you'd have to do is edit our current Google form to make it, show the questions that you want. And that would be pretty easy to do. So I could help you with that if you want, but that might be easier than setting something new up because everything's in place to do that.
Yeah, whatever's easiest is what my take.
But I did want to comment quickly on something that Ben said, just to offer a different perspective. I understand completely where you're coming from, Ben, with when you did the counting to include recipients in the numbers. I see it a little bit differently. While I completely agree that they're an important part of the ecosystem, I think when we look at chapters and the number of people in a chapter, it's almost kind of like an expression of their capacity to be able to help people in their surrounding area. You know, a bigger chapter with more people available to help people that need devices is kind of what we want to know about. And so unless those recipients are genuinely plugged in and actively helping other cases and helping other people, I would say maybe they shouldn't be included in the numbers, just because I don't think it really adds meaning to, you know, what the actual capacity of that chapter is to help other people.
So that actually if I may jump in, that speaks to something that has been bugging me for a little while. You mentioned an audit process. Do we, as part of our onboarding, what I've been kicking around is, I feel like each chapter should have some kind of identification system, whether it's alphanumeric or something else, so that we can drill down and establish some kind of mnemonic framework to say, like, this is, you know, the Rochester chapters. Oh, I think I'm getting a lot of background noise there.
John, I gotta mute you again, sorry.
Oh, it's John.
Yeah.
No worries. But, you know, so if the Rochester chapter were to print, you know, 70 devices for 50 patients, we would have like RNY device 128, you know, hyphen.
Yeah, so you're talking about like asset tagging or asset tracking.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've talked about this for a long time. You're absolutely right. We've never.
Masvi is really keen on this.
Yes.
And he's had, I mean, circling back to Masvi, when the time is right, he's got a really interesting idea of, you know, basically being able to sort of print out like a little QR code.
Exactly.
Yep.
Tagging the devices and where they go, and you know,
it's definitely something we want to do. We just haven't figured out how to implement it.
Then if somebody has a device break, all they have to do is scan their QR code, and we get a ping that notifies the team that created the device, and they say, hey, this thing that was built in your space, you know, it needs this new component.
And potentially that could link to, you know, if we can pull together some kind of a database where we have, you know, a central repository, that QR code could actually show this was device type XYZ, scale 120%, left hand, printed in this material. You know, you could include everything you need to know how to reprint that device.
And we can actually start trending some information, like if things are failing in certain devices over time or for certain individuals, then we can actually start gathering some of that data and say, well, we need to improve this, or we need to shore this up because it's, you know, the failure rate here is, you know, whatever, 30 times,
absolutely,
you know, 30% higher than other similar devices. But anyway, I've been thinking on this for a while. Sorry to interrupt.
No, we're on the same page. It's something we've talked about many times. Like I said, we just haven't figured out how to implement. John got his hand up.
So when I'm talking, is it okay with the background noise? Okay. So I love this conversation and I love the grand vision, but I've been around this block many times. Yes. So I just want to say that, Adam, we are for the moment at least, I think we are still a brittle organization. And so trying to build the grand vision inevitably results in some kind of a breakdown. Even with like Masvi. Masvi had a brilliant vision for how to tie together all of the technology for chapter audits and for the badging system and so on. But because he's a volunteer, he became unavailable and it just never really happened. All I want to say is, I think that this identifying where you're trying to go is really good. And then saying what is a viable incremental step in that direction.
Sure.
Taking it and then saying, what's the next incremental step? And maybe modifying the end goal with every step as you learn is a way in which we can get better without investing heavily in something that, in my experience, we have never pulled off. We have never pulled off a big, successful bunch of technology. I'd say our best case was Enable Web Central, which was a grand vision, well implemented, and yet, as you can see, we've decided it didn't succeed either.
Well, this is what I would say. I think that if we're talking about a first step, I think that that ties into the question about the leadership team and difficulty getting them roped into scheduling a meeting. I think that if we want to make an incremental step, I think it would be getting that group of people together and then expanding from there, trying to get more engagement generally from the larger community. So it's not this group of guys every week who are meeting. You know, I'd love it if we had, 200 people on this call every week.
Well,
So
listen, I agree with
What
that.
you wish for.
I say good luck with that. I also want to acknowledge that we old farts, the fact that we've talked about this for a long time is an interesting factoid. It shouldn't influence what you try to do, really. I just want to give you this feedback and this suggestion. But I think Jeremy and I have come to the point, sorry to speak for you, Jeremy, where I think I have done as much building of this system as I know how to do with my skill set and my availability.
The only
And
observation I'd make here is that any attempt we've made over the last 10 years to establish any kind of centralized data repositories has always failed, despite our best of intentions. We've tried it in a number of different
But the
levels.
other side I'm trying to articulate is that that's what we've been able to do. It is quite possible, Adam, that if you can get this new team together, that you'll be able to do what we weren't able to do. So I'm just giving you a caution, not a recommendation.
Yeah.
nope, understood. All understood.
Ben?
I was just going to sort of pipe in too and say that it often people talk about things, this was successful or this failed, but they're all sort of these pilot, beta versions of all this stuff. So as a model, I think EWC is great, and it's continued to be the best iteration of this model that we have here in the U.S. to lean into. But how cool that it's sort of diversified and we've found that there's these other models out there. And I think in the same way, if we think about this audit process, last year was the first year in the years that I've been involved with e-NABLE that I tried to pull together sort of an annual report. And it was really interesting to try to glue together the mush data that we have and try to come up with some sort of a way of guesstimating in a sort of a scientific way-ish, what the dark matter of e-NABLE could be. If we have, if we can do a poll and we get feedback from 30%, and this is the range, can we sort of project that? And I think with this audit, there's no way that we're going to get everybody involved. And there's no way that we're going to get, in the same way, there's no way that we're going to track all the devices. But if we can track some, and we know the percentage of what we've tracked versus what we haven't tracked, we can start to get a better sense of how to project this stuff, and we can share with some credibility, a range of this is kind of what we're working with when we talk to people like, I think we had meetings with IBM, was that right? We've had meetings with other sort of big players, and that's the kind of stuff that they need. So
That's right. So you'd have something more to extrapolate from.
Yeah.
Let's move on, folks, because there's a couple of big topics and I don't know if we'll have time for them, but let's move on so we can at least give it a shot here. I just want to quickly review a couple of posts of note from the week. There was two that I put in here. One from Gordon Snowball, who posted a new design for what he describes as a locking finger prosthetic, and I'm just going to go straight to his Thingiverse listing. I can't say I fully understand how it works because there's no video, there's only photos. It looks like the cords kind of wind around the finger.
There's a wiki link that shows exactly how it works. It's very good.
Okay. Oh, here we go. So are you saying this one here, the Make Human Community? That one?
I can't, no. There's actually a wiki in his
There it is.
in his
Capstan equation?
thingy universe.
Oh, that's going to be over.
Yeah, and it's really, really good. It goes into exactly how it works. It really did. It's a nice setup. It's a very nice design.
Oh my goodness. Well, if there's any mathematicians here, I'll leave this one to you. Huh? But he questioned whether it was he felt like it might be a little bit too specific to have a place in the general catalog. I don't know that I agree. I see some very interesting things in here aside from the finger locking design. I don't think I've seen before a design like this that was made for, somebody missing a couple of fingers. And I like this very slim kind of, wrap that the fingers connect to. I definitely think there's, some.
I think we're very light when it comes to partials.
Yes.
And
exactly.
I get so many calls for partials. I do more partials than anything. So I think there's plenty of room personally.
So I don't know that we have a good mechanism for this right now, but I guess, Ben, I would ask you to help me to make sure that we bring this to the attention of the intern that's working on the device catalog. Let's just make sure that they're aware of these designs that aren't in our catalog that could be. So I think this is a good one.
That's a great idea. Jeremy, do you have sort of a list or a bucket that you've put all the designs that aren't currently in the catalog but are sort of pending?
The only thing I have is when somebody fills out our form that we have on the hub to actually submit a new design, that sends an email to me, and I have kept those emails. So I have 2 or 3 of those emails of people that have submitted designs that have not made it into the catalog. That's by no means a complete list. I know there are other designs out there, but I could at least forward those to you if that would help.
That'd be great. Yeah, if you want to send me all the devices that aren't in the catalog that need review, or even some of the ones that are in the catalog that need further review, I think that's a great place to start. We can sort of have a beginning activity list for the intern.
Terrific. Okay. And then the other one is from our very own Adam Jennings, putting a call out there for our healthcare professionals, trying to get a healthcare roundtable together. Any luck with that one, Adam?
Not so far. I talked to Ben a little bit about this the other day, and he had a good point that the presentation that I'll be giving in a couple of weeks here might be a good entry point for a number of these folks. So I'm going to be giving a little primer on disability models, like how healthcare professionals view and classify impairment versus functional limitation versus disability, and how devices kind of factor into that. I'm thinking,
is that the focus follow-up?
I don't know. I don't know how that's classified in our calendar.
Ben, is that the focus follow-up that he's presenting in?
This month, and this is actually a question I wanted to ask Adam. We had talked about sort of a progression of doing a presentation, which he did last month, which was great, just sort of his background. And I actually linked to that in his post that you just shared. And then working towards sort of a monthly meeting. I checked an old email and realized that Adam and I had talked about starting in October. Adam, do you feel comfortable jumping in a little bit early? Are you up for doing end of September, or should we stick to October for the healthcare professionals?
I'm so glad you said that, because I thought I was going insane. I thought it was in October, but okay, I guess.
No, I made a mistake. I saw that email and thought, I jumped the gun.
Okay, well, phew. Okay, no, that would be great. That would give me a little bit more time to try to get this group of people together, and see if we can bounce some ideas, and also give me time to make it. I mean, I've got materials to give a presentation, but it might not have been a stellar presentation. So I think October sounds like a good idea.
Okay, great. So yeah, maybe what we can do this month, the focus follow-up is going to be Kyle Reeser. There was some miscommunication with the timing last month, so he's going to share his Tanzania trip this month. The new member meetup is a possibility. Adam, if you wanted to jump in there, but
sure.
I think also, focusing on it and your work in October would be fine too. I see John's got his hand up, but before I pass it over, if you go back to that post, Jeremy, James Quilty did a reply this morning, and he would be an incredible, Ty Reach would be an absolutely incredible key player there.
I did see that. I haven't had a chance to reply, but I'll reach out to them.
Yeah, and one of the things that I've had luck with in terms of drumming up interest, it definitely is. There's no recipe, there's no silver bullet that has worked, but within the hub, you'll see that the post before James, I tagged a bunch of people. Those are all folks that are involved, professionally in healthcare. I know John had sent an email with a list of a couple of people, but I'd encourage all of us, as we're reading these posts, to tag people to try to bring some attention to some of these posts. So James responded after I tagged him. You'll also notice there's a woman, I'm going to say her name wrong, I know, but is it Tamyara?
Yeah. She was the one that shared that 3D printing quality guide.
Yeah, she shared an incredible guide. She just finished her program and shared her thesis, and it looked awesome to me. So I commented on her post and said, Adam's got this new community that he's going to be bringing together. You'd be a wonderful person to share. Would you like to present? So, I've gotten more feedback responding to posts than I have from just emails in general. But there's people that respond differently to different media. So, John?
I just wanted to remind you that the world of the hub is a very small subset of the world at large. And that on LinkedIn in particular, and I sent you some of these names, but there are more. If you make this presentation, you should think about a snippet of the video as a LinkedIn post that you then tag all of the people who have crossed paths with Jeremy or me and Rick, who are medical professionals. And that might well bring some new people in who will find your approach refreshingly professional as compared to what Jeremy or I could have done in the past. And that may be a way of, no, seriously, because you are a medical professional and we never pretended to be, but it was also apparent to the medical professionals that we came from another planet. So that I just wanted to suggest that that's a way of doing it and thinking about how to market what you're doing.
Okay, gotcha. I'll ruminate a little bit. Hey, but just before I forget, I've got a sizable update on the Afghanistan Initiative. I don't want to eat up all of the air on that for this meeting. Once we've concluded the rest of the topics for this town hall, would anyone be willing to stay after to talk through it?
Well, we definitely can, but I think maybe we should use the time that we have, because the main topic I was trying to get down to is we have a fairly sizable discussion to have about reviewing some of the specifics of our Lumio voting process. I think we probably don't have enough time to get into that today. So instead, I would say let's go ahead and focus on your updates, Adam, and we'll save that for another time.
Okay, yeah, sure. I will try to be succinct. So since we last spoke, I've had another call with my contacts on the ground. Let me just run through the players here. There's Dr. Mehan. He is my direct contact and a friend of a friend who is the person who put me in touch with the hospital in question in Kabul. Dr. Mehan was unable to meet this morning. But the two people on the call were Dr. Poya, who is the P&O, prosthetics and orthotics lead in the hospital, and Dr. Ramin, who is the director of the hospital there and Dr. Mehan's good friend.
And this is, just to clarify, Adam, this is the only functioning orthopedic surgery center in Afghanistan that you're referring to?
As far as I'm aware, and according to their report, it's the only
hospital we're talking about. Okay,
exactly, that's right.
Okay.
So Dr. Ramin, who is the director there, he has been working tirelessly for the past couple of weeks since we first connected to get this off the ground. He's been in contact with the national health minister and the local minister, and I forget all the terminology there, but he has been in touch with all relevant officials on the government side, and has also been in touch with the WHO and UNICEF. And it looks like instead of having to go through this third party, Humanity International, we might actually be just utilizing WHO or UNICEF resources. I have a couple of questions for this team, but really what I want to do is see if we can get some momentum built up quickly to try to pilot a shipment and get some of the devices that have been requested, maybe just, pardon the pun, maybe a handful of devices to send out within the next few weeks, within the next month, if that would be possible, just to see if this delivery chain is feasible before we start making this a regular thing.
Right.
So that's question number one.
Well, I'd say somebody needs to reach out to, I think it's Dr. Brent Hollers, who's the collection point that we've had operating in Atlanta, Georgia. I have zero visibility into that, but as far as I know, people have been sending them fully assembled devices for some time. There should be some kind of an inventory there that's been checked for quality, but I have no idea where that stands. So we got to get an update from them. They might have a collection of devices that have already been checked and are ready to go.
Okay.
That's a really great idea, just to test the supply chain, to send it out. But I do think getting a printer there is going to make all the difference in the world. There's no sustainable way to continue to send devices that far. I remember I'm hearing Bob's voice in my head talking about his experiences shipping overseas, and I know from getting materials into Afghanistan, it's just not reliable, even years ago before all this.
Yeah. So that's item number 5 on my list. Getting a printer out there once we've established some kind of connection and reliable transit. I think that's a great idea and something that they're very excited about. So I've been receiving measurements and video and pictures of potential recipients. A couple of things there.
What are you seeing as the primary need? Are we talking arms or hands? Can you see?
Yes. So it's a combination, a lot of below elbows. So the other, and this is a different item, but let me just mention it now. They've got a huge need for lower extremity prosthetics.
Yeah.
And I know that I think John mentioned soon after I joined on at e-NABLE that a couple of chapters were experienced or had some experience in fabricating legs. I wanted to put that out there and just see, is that something where even if it's one a month or one a year, do we have any kind of capacity for lower extremity prostheses?
I think you should connect with the Syria chapter, which is one of the leaders of in lower limb, and has done a remarkable job under, vaguely similar post-war conditions.
Okay. I seem to remember there being some mention of a chapter in France that's making legs. Is that accurate, or am I way off?
France works with like Tunisia, and has other partnerships, but you're saying in terms of working with the Middle East?
No. In fabricating legs and fabricating lower extremity devices.
France, not so much. They've done some research, I think, with that, but definitely lots of lower limb stuff going on in some of the South America chapters. Paraguay, for sure. I can give you a list of some of the chapters that are involved. Also, Tanzania. You definitely want to connect with Kyle, who's just getting back from Tanzania. They were doing really interesting lower limb devices and sort of like orthopedic braces and that kind of stuff, with really pretty limited technology. I mean, that's
another thing. The orthotics component is another item that I'd like to explore, and I think it's time for Kyle and I to finally meet. I think that would be good. Okay, so really, they had 3 key questions that they wanted to know. Number 1, what country would this be sent from, so that they could, try to start establishing information with the WHO, like where is this going to be coming from and how is this going to be done? You know, they could easily take things in from Iraq, Pakistan, or Turkey. That there are pretty open lines of trade there in shipment. But they would need a key contact person who would be handling the packages and would then turn things over to the ICRC or the WHO, whoever it's going to be. So if anyone has any idea where the most feasible location would be, that would be thing number one. Thing number two would be how frequently would packages be sent and how much would they weigh, just the logistics of, you know, how is this, you know, what is this going to look like? Are we going to have multiple devices in a single package? Or are we going to ship them in bulk as separate packages? I guess finally, what is our overall capacity? Because they're trying to communicate to their surrounding community. They've got a huge number of amputees there, all of whom are very interested in this. Believe that they've made some kind of announcement online in whatever form they use to communicate these health efforts, that an aid organization based in the United States is capable of printing hands and providing these devices, and they're looking for people who are interested in getting fitted. So they've had a huge number of people calling in and showing up to get fitted. I have
a question. Forgive my ignorance, but and maybe this is a question for Ben. Am I correct in assuming that it gets pretty hot in Afghanistan?
It does.
So material, we might want to think about materials. I don't know if we want to send devices that are made out of PLA, you know, because they might tend to melt. So something to keep in mind as we're collecting devices here. I suspect, like when you go to, for example, Brent Holler's, if he has stuff in inventory, chances are it's going to be 95% PLA, because that's what the classrooms are using.
Yeah, I think color is another consideration too.
That's true.
We don't want a bunch of like Iron Man hands, I don't think.
That's right.
So just a thought. Anyway, that's where things are right now. They are champing at the bit to get this moving, and they have all of the approvals that they need. We just need to hammer out some of these details, and I don't know if this would be better to have some focused attention in a different meeting, and if we can try to direct our efforts on a weekly basis or outside of this town hall meeting, or if that's asking too much of everyone's time.
Well, it's not asking too much. It's just a question of what's going to work. I see that John and Ben have their hands up. Let's go to John first.
So first of all, Adam, just congratulations on how much you're doing and how well you're doing it.
Oh, thanks.
As far as a liaison partner, I think Turkey is the obvious group. We have probably the largest single enabled chapters in Turkey. They're quite a sophisticated operation, and Zeynep Karagoj, I think her name, is very accessible and very, very good.
Great.
So
Great.
Talking this through with her would be great. Also, they have done, I'm sorry about the noise, they have done some work with Syrian conditions as well. So that also is something to consider. I'll mute and pass it on until the helicopter passes.
Yeah, Ben?
I was going to mention, I put a chat message in as well, but my memory from before, you know, the government collapse and everything else was that really things arrived in Afghanistan when people would go there. We would bring equipment with us, and being a chaperone to whatever equipment we brought made it much more likely that it would actually arrive where it was supposed to go. It might not be something where there's any reliability to be sending packages. It might be something where you can get something in and then work from there. So, you know, I would suggest trying to align with UNICEF or WHO, finding out when they have staff from where to where. You know, if they have people in Europe that are going to Kabul, maybe we can get a printer that they could bring along with them and then they would be able to sort of bring it into the space, and then we could organize sort of the local pickups and that kind of stuff.
Well, just another point to keep in mind there, Ben, that since we're talking about the potential of a human literally carrying something in, I don't know that the printer is as much of a challenge as materials. You know, they're going to need filaments. They probably can't get those readily where they are. So, you know, and giving them a spool or two isn't going to do them much good. So we got to think about how do we get them a bulk supply of materials that will last them for a while.
I will say that Dr. Ramin did say that he's able to travel to and from Turkey very easily.
Oh, that's good.
So that would be, if we need a person physically transporting, I'm sure he can't do it all the time. But maybe on a monthly basis, if that's a workable cadence, we could probably make that work.
Well, that's great. That'll help. John?
The other thing I wanted to say is do be careful about runaway expectations. It's just something to watch out for, is that the Afghans may have an unrealistic or magical way of thinking about what we are offering them, because it's alien and it is sort of magical. But I think our volume capability is a really big question. We might be able to do a few a month. If it goes as well as it sounds like you're doing it, it might be a new mobilization for e-NABLE, in which case it's not out of the question that we could do 100 a month. But that's the range. It's from a few to hundreds. And
right.
So
I think if we can
working it
figure
through
out
methodically without setting false expectations is going to be important.
I agree, but I also think that if we can figure out some of these logistical challenges to where we know that we have a means of getting them in, and we then feel comfortable putting a strong call out to the community and organizing a printing effort, I feel like we could do a pretty good quantity. I think.
Well, that's right. But remember, there's ultimately the real question is whether these devices will be accepted and used, and that's the really hard part, and that you only find out by learning as you go. So again, figuring out how to do the minimally viable complete chain, and then indicating that we're interested in scaling is a good idea.
Yeah, so a pilot program, we got to get some devices out there, get them on patients, and get some feedback.
Right. So a couple of responses to that, and I agree with what you're saying, John. Number one, I've done some tempering of expectations already, just to make sure, in part because the language barrier is such that it occasionally takes each of us saying the same thing a few times before we get our points across. Oh gosh, I've got so many different things here that I need to bring up. I'm going to try to get this out in order. I've reached out to the Helping Hands Project, and they have their leadership is very interested in being engaged in this. I think that in addition to putting out a call generally to try to get some more focused energy and volunteers to begin making limbs, I think that it kind of falls to me and anyone who wants to give me a hand as the outreach person to reach out to individual chapters and just explain what's going on, set up some one-on-one time, and explain what the chain is going to look like. What I need is to determine what that chain is going to look like, so that I can begin communicating that to folks. That's thing number one. Thing number two is that I've officially hit the point at which I can't provide usable information to the degree that they need, and that I think we need to get these expectations right and to get the logistics hammered out. So to that end, I'd really appreciate if Ben or Jeremy or anyone else on this call wanted to join this WhatsApp group and begin having these conversations asynchronously, and we're doing weekly or bi-weekly calls to touch base. But Ben, I especially like your insight, given your experience in the area and with the conflict and some of the geopolitical concerns. If anyone has the bandwidth to be more involved in that, I'd really appreciate the help.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Okay, what else you have, Adam?
That's about it. So I guess maybe the best next step is to send out a little gap analysis, we still need, make that available to the group. I can also share all of the measurements and video that I've received from Dr. Poya. But we've got to figure out some way where Dr. Poya can upload these things directly instead of sending them to me via WhatsApp, so that people in the hub can just grab these cases as they come down the pipe. Because it's massively inefficient for me to check WhatsApp, see what it is, download it to my phone, and then upload it wherever it's going to go. Yep, that's about it.
Okay. All right. Well, then we are into our final minutes of the meeting here. Let me just open it up to everyone on the call. If there's,
I wanted to make one other suggestion, which is that rather than going straight to the hub, conceivably, this is what the e-NABLE Web Central was designed for. So you could think about that infrastructure for coordinating this as well.
Okay, perfect. Perfect.
anyone else have anything that you'd like to use our final minutes for?
Maybe just to follow up, I tossed in another comment. The team in Pakistan, Grit 3D, there's some information in the chapter spotlight about it, but they had initially put a lot of energy into e-NABLE devices, kinetic, usable hands. And they found that they just weren't being used, and that the community really was interested in sort of fitting in having a cosmetic hand for events. So they, after spending a lot of time trying to come up with a useful device, they shifted and they started getting these cosmetic rubber hands from China, with the correct skin tones, that could be sort of placed on, and then focusing on the connection points between the residual limb and the device. But take a look at that too, because I think Afghanistan being, it's definitely a different culture, but there's going to be some similarities in terms of what the expectations are, and it might be less about having a hand, one of our designs that really works, and more about being able to participate in events and not feel ostracized.
Yep, that's an excellent point.
And that could be something just shipping in a bunch of hands from China. It's not e-NABLE necessarily, but that might be that was again a surprise when I did the interviews with the Grit 3D folks. They did a lot of work with the gripper hand initially, and then just had to move away from it all, even though as engineers and designers, that's really what they were interested in. That's not what the folks were interested in using.
The other thing to have in mind is that there are rubber gloves sourceable from India for as little as $5, I think, which can be put on top of an e-NABLE hand, which gives some mechanical function, but some of that look. So that's another approach to explore. I can try to find the vendor in India who makes those gloves. They were about $5.
Okay.
Yeah, India actually, in terms of a regional partner, is worth considering.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Okay,
folks.
I think I've taken up enough of your time. Thank you.
No, not at all. You're doing fantastic work, Adam. Thank you so much. It's really great to see the progress. I think we'll go ahead and wrap up for today, and I don't think we have another follow-up event today, right? I think Monday is our next one. Is that right?
Monday is the chapter leaders meeting. So that'll be managed by John. We did have some interest with, I think, some sort of maker from Ukraine. I sent an email today to invite them to that meeting to see sort of what happens next. We've had some technical issues with the last month's meeting, but maybe we can, I can chat with John. We can get that email out today for getting everybody in. So that's Monday at 12. And then next Friday is the new member meetup.
And that's Monday at 12 Eastern, right?
Yes. Monday, the 12th at 12 p.m. is the chapter spotlight or the chapter leaders meeting. And then followed by that Friday, the 16th is the new member meetup.
Okay. Thanks everyone for your great work. See you next time.